So we are sitting with Walter in my garden. Walter came after IBA to my place. He made a short trip before going to airport, and we have few minutes. So we put this oriental hornbeam collected in 2024 in Croatia with Andrija and Marko. And maybe Walter has few ideas and tell me what he thinks about the tree. So Walter, what do you think? The tree was repotted this year, changed a little bit of position, and I looked at the roots. I wanted to put it into much smaller pot, but don't have smaller pot now. But I was doing some reduction already, so it's prepared to go to something like this size, maybe 20 centimeter narrower. But the future pot is not important because it's early stages of development, so we will see how this tree will turn out. I'm curious what you have to say. There are a few issues with that tree, and I'm really curious. What do you think about that?
I think this is a very good specimen. And we collect these in the mountains, and you shouldn't think that it's very easy because we have many. A lot of time and energy is spent to find these first of all, and then it's very hard work to pull them out of the ground, and then it takes great gardening skill to have them survive. So there's a lot before it's like this, and now you see this is the result of very hard work for 2 years. And then you look at this and say, well, it's kind of interesting, but really, I mean, why would you bother? There's so many issues here where this is kind of silly and ugly and too much. And so, yeah, that's exactly what I want. If I hear too much and complicated, I love it, because then I know there are options. If there's many trunks and branches and it looks like too much, that's what you want, because then you can reduce, take something off. If you have just a stick with almost no branches, what can you do?
Yeah.
You can just say, yeah, well, in 20 years it will be like that. That's fine, but you cannot work artistically, really. But with this, I love it, and it's really a puzzle. And this is not so easy to solve for a beginner, because there are big decisions here, and they may not be sure. But if you have very much experience, which I happen to have done it so often, I know when I do this will be the happening. So you must create the ability to look at something like this and discard some of these branches and see what's going to be in the future. And then people think, oh, this man is a genius. No, I'm not a genius. I've only done it for 10,000 times. Okay, but so you don't need 10,000 times, but maybe 100, and then you can really do it very quickly. But even if you take a long time, if you don't know what to do, you can stare at this for 2 days, and you will still not find a solution. But I show you how I do it. I first of all totally ignore all this chaos up here. I look at the nibare and say, what you're seeing there, that's a very good nibare and a very good start of the tree. The roots are great, and then the lower part up to here already has some taper, and then there's a lot of branches. Everything is wrong up there, but that is not what I'm looking at. I'm looking only at the lower part, and that is enough that we can do something up there. Why don't I look first at the crown like everybody else? Because the crown I can change. I can do a lot of things up here, take off and wire and so on. But this I can change very little. This is what I have to live with forever. So this is extremely important that this is correct. If there were no good roots, I would say, well, this is a tree that I sell because it's going to take 25 years before I have a good root, and that's too much for me. Okay. Then I look at it from another side and say, oh God, what we are looking at is a good front, but is not this even better? So this had at least 2 fronts, 2 good fronts, and it's very hard to decide which is the better one. Now that's exactly the kind of problem I want. That's the best problem you can have, that you have 2 very good sides and don't know which is the better. And then that's going to be a very good bonsai in the future. which you put in the middle of your garden so that people can look around it, and it looks like a real tree, and they can then still find the best one, and it's up to them. So this is what trees in nature really do. They don't have a front, they have many fronts. It's only one human standing in front of it and say, "This is, I like it from here. Oh, I like it from, no, this is my," so that you make photographs and then you have 6 fronts and then you still don't know which is the best one, and that's exactly what we have here. Anyway, so we have solved the most important thing, that the basic features are very nice. Now up here we can sort out the chaos. Where is the tree sort of already nice? Where can we make it nice, and where is it not nice? This middle part here, this here, I think this is obviously the main trunk, and this we want to bring out and
this
shine.
is the nicest part. Yeah? This core and this bend here. Yeah?
And also up here, this sort of what's really bothering me right away is this very straight thing, which helped a lot to build the base and to feed the base so that it's thicker. But this is totally disturbing the view of the trunk, because the character of this is a youngish high tree which was just cut off.
Can I tell you my theory?
Yes.
Look at this tree now from your side, and I have theory that this is what happened when what we were talking on EBA, that this was separated tree which fused to a different tree here. It exactly looks like this when you think about it, that it was most probably one seedling which was growing next to much bigger tree, and then they fused over time, maybe 50 years ago.
Yes, thank you for pointing this out. Now I can see, yes, that's another tree which just by accident created a wonderful nebari, which you could also use as a technique as a gardener.
Yeah.
But that's going to take 20 years before that looks good.
Yeah.
And now he has done his job, and now he can go. So my theory is, maybe not now, but at one point, hold your hand there, right there, take this totally off, cut it off, so that there's not even some little stump, and then hope very much that this root will then still survive, because it could well be that you cut this off
and it will die.
But then you
or
have
dry.
And then it will rot away somehow. So that would not be a good idea, but I think we absolutely must get rid of this. The question is only when. So this it goes out, and that already makes the tree much better. Now from both sides, this was a good idea. I tell you about a technique how to go to work with very, very complicated material like this. You find something which you know you must do that. I mean, whatever I do, turn it around, and whatever style it will be, this does not belong. Now, most people would then say, okay, it's interesting. Now, can you go on to the next one? I say, when I style trees, I say, okay, this must be done. The question is only, is it good now to do it now or later?
I will do it immediately.
Usually now is better, because later means never. So what I have this little new modern little small chainsaws which do wonders, and I cut it off right away.
We can do it now.
We could do it now. The thing is that I know I can do it, and it will make a tremendous difference, and we show you, but it takes some guts. And I think this is the basis for styling bonsai, and this is why I stress it so much. So I would now really love to cut these off. Okay, but you do the cutting and I'll tell you where.
Okay.
So we do a root cutting. We don't work on the stumps. We know it will not be look extremely nice, but it will dramatically change the view of this tree. It will solve a lot of problems. However, it will take away a few options. Now, one option was to have worked with this as a main trunk, and here as a second trunk, as a twin trunk, and we took that option away. Why is that? Well, because I decided that the main trunk can be very good, and this is never going to be very good. You can work for it for 20, 30, 50 years. This will not be really good. Well, this is already very good, and this can be better in the future. Okay, so this is not a chainsaw. This is a reciprocating saw.
So we start with this one.
Yeah, but make sure you don't hurt anything here. But you make a flat cut without cutting into the old. Okay, done. Okay, and the rest all free. And here you make this cut like this. To a fake Nebari.
This one?
No. This you call cut flat, and here you don't cut like this. You cut like this.
Okay.
So that there it looks like here are some roots.
Yeah.
Okay. And we
will do that we will cut it. We will cut it like somewhere here, and then I will carve it away when you.
Okay. You cut it not somewhere exactly here. But make sure that this root underneath is still alive.
Okay.
Okay.
This will be very hard not to hit the root, you know.
Yeah. Even if you hit it.
We remove it like here, and then I will work it carefully not to hit the roots.
Okay, I think everybody can see now the result is a single tree. It's this old mother in the middle of the forest, and then the bar is a bit too wide, but that's easy to reduce. Simply carving here.
Yeah, this will be carved, so it will be reduced.
Maybe even leaving this little thing growing. This is okay to have a little bush here. And I think
there is a big root under this. If you look, there is like secondary root. So if this is carved carefully,
so you just carve it and don't disturb this. So that's a pretty cool idea. Maybe you even leave this, but you carve it. This you totally carve off.
Yeah.
We don't want any sort of
disturbance here on this.
We cut it, and then we have a big wound. We don't want a round wound. We make this wound a bit ugly. Maybe we even drill a hole in there. The same here, and we carve it. So then it will look pretty cool. And then, of course, there's still some issues up there, but we have radically reduced the major issues, and now we see the rest. And of course, this is much more shining because we took away this.
Yeah. So now we can see the most interesting part of the tree here in the center.
If we have this as a front. If we have the other front, we have taken off this here, which was sort of competing with this here. Now this is clearly the winner because he's survived and this is dead. I wonder whether from this side we want this little branch here, which has a lot of character, is a bit thin, but from this side it's disturbing. If you decide that this is the front, maybe you cut it off. If this is the back,
maybe it can stay here.
Then you absolutely want it to stay. So I would say this looks like to me like a pretty good front anyway. And if you put a gun at my head and say, Walter, you must make a decision now, I would say, okay, I decide this to be the front.
Yeah, okay. Because it's also cleaner, because there are not this. Here we have two cuts, and also there will be visible cut from this straight trunk we removed.
Okay.
So this is much cleaner front now. So also in traditional bonsai.
And all these cuts will disturb the view. So he is the winner of this because he stays. Okay. Also this one stays, which would also be a bit disturbing. And then we work our way up. And there's many decisions there, but there's no need to do that now. And we are running out of time anyway. So I think that is a very quick result. Now everybody can see, so if you had not seen this tree before, and only see this now, you say, oh, that's pretty good material. I want to have it. How much is it? I said, that's a good question, because that means somebody wants that because they can see that it's good. But you remember, and you can look at it at the start again, what it looked before. It looked before like interesting but kind of chaotic. So we are solving the chaos by taking things off, and making it simpler, but we must stop at some point. We have collected a wild tree, which is like a wild boar, okay, a wild pig, a wild big boar out in nature, and it has this character, and it's too wild, and we are taming it. So we are domesticating him. We are making a house swine out of a wild boar. But we must stop this house swinification at one point where it's they're becoming too nice and too easy. We want still some character, some charisma. And if you have a person with charisma, it's not always a very nice and smooth person. Charisma is also some edges and some will and some. She's ruling this forest, and you cannot rule the forest only with love, but you must have love as a basis. So I wonder whether that's a bit too much of esoteric talk.
If we are in an esoteric field, in case you said it's she, and we stay in esoteric a little bit, what the name would you give to this tree in case it's she? If you look at her now.
It's a she. She is Mama Forest.
Mama Forest.
Yeah.
Good. It stays like this.
Yeah.
So let's end it with this. This tree will go back outside into the garden. I let it grow, and maybe there will be again opportunity to speak about its future with Walter. I will continue to do some carving, maybe in another video. But that's all for today. We have to rush to the airport. I would like to thank Walter for coming to my place after 16 years and seeing my collection. You may see the pictures from my garden at his Facebook, and I'm glad that I was able to have him here and have him as a teacher for many years already. Thank you, Walter, for everything.
I'm also very happy to have been here, to see his garden after 10 or so years that I was not here, and to see a man who does bonsai in a different way than I do, but still considers himself my student. He works a lot with seedlings. He works with trees where almost every tree we say, yeah, in 20 years or in 30 years that will be good. Now that's a long area. He can do it because he's much younger, but it also takes a very different approach. I, in my garden, want this immediate effect that you come and see it and say, wow, it deeply impresses you. That's my will, and my trees are styled to do exactly that. Now he doesn't care. He doesn't have visitors here. So he's the only person who works with these trees, and he doesn't care whether that looks good now, but he knows that if he continues in 20, 30 years, they will be great. And that is a totally different approach. It makes him happy, so it's perfect for him. That doesn't, and I would never do it, but that doesn't mean that I don't accept this. So I really am happy that I have seen this, and there's a reason why this man is now getting more and more famous on the internet and being a world figure, especially for deciduous broadleaf trees. And if you listen to him and if you see all these projects that he has, you know why. I mean, there's a lot of gardening skill behind this, which I'm not thinking so much about, but that's his field. And then it takes a lot of styling. If you have a little cutting and then you say, in 30 years that will look like this, okay, yeah, good luck. I mean, this is not bad. This we found in nature. But if you don't think in 30 years it will be a bush, but to make it a good bush, that's his skill. And I think that's wonderful that one of my students goes in another direction, which also is a very of high value for the bonsai world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Walter.